is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the new Dell XPS 15. This is the mid-2012 model with Ivy Bridge CPUs. As you can see, it's a premium aluminum notebook, 15.6 inch. Nice look, kind of MacBook Pro-ish. Soft touch black finish here, a lot like the XPS 13, and this competes pretty much with the HP Envy 15, the 15-inch MacBook Pro. We're going to look at it now. The new Dell XPS 15 is a 15.6-inch notebook with a full 1080 resolution display, and a very nice display at that, and obviously it's quite slim. It's got an aluminum casing on it, weighs 5.79 pounds, and therefore it's competing with the MacBook Pro 15-inch, the HP Envy 15, and a couple of other premium models, but those would be the two biggest. Now, as you can see from the outside design here, it looks a lot like the MacBook Pro, doesn't it? We've got that kind of straight edge here, the curved off corners here, the metal look, and we'll put our MacBook Pro 15-inch in the picture with it, and you can see, just kind of almost embarrassing there, ain't it? Now, that's interesting. It's different from the Envy, which from the outside doesn't look anything like the MacBook Pro, but from the inside does. The reverse is true of the Dells. You'll see inside. The inside doesn't look at all like the Mac. And the footprint on these guys is identical between the Mac and the Dell. Now, if you open them up, you know what the Mac looks like on the inside. It's silver here, black chiclet keyboard, black keyboard surround. And we're going to open up the Dell next. You can see what that looks like. And there it is. All black soft touch interior. Now, this is a magnesium alloy palm rest area underneath this rubber soft touch finish. Black chiclet keyboard, so the resemblance clearly to the Mac ends there. Now if we bring in the HP Envy 15, that has kind of a more long rectangular thing going on. Footprint wise, it's not quite as tall this way, but about, and a teeny bit longer going this way than the Dell is, but pretty close in size and weight. And obviously black exterior on this doesn't look much like the Dell or like the Mac, but when you open up the HP, you see a complete Mac interior here. The XPS 15 is available with Core i5 and Core i7 CPUs, including quad-core, and you can get either NVIDIA GT630M graphics or GT640M, and that's what we have, and that's Kepler. That's the new architecture, 28 nanometer, with 2 gigs of DDR5 video RAM. So that sounds pretty promising, doesn't it? Not quite as exciting as the GT650, granted, but certainly sounds like it should be capable of some gaming. It's got a very clean design, and really, this is a piece for somebody who wants a good-looking notebook. Certainly, it's kind of a status symbol thing. It's also very durable, metal everywhere. Little LED here that indicates when it's sleeping or it's powered on. Nothing else going on in the front, very clean looking. And on this side, we have our optical drive, and this is a Blu-ray drive in our model that costs $16.99 according to Dell. With the Core i7 also, we have SD card slot here, and we have dual headphone jacks also, just like the HP Envy does. Pretty much the same layout as the Envy, only they reverse the sides. With the Envy, the optical drive is on the other side. On the other side here we have 3 USB 3.0 ports, a mini display port, not a full size. On a machine this big, I kind of wish they had a full size display port so you don't need an adapter, but there it is. And that is handy, that display port, because it can drive large monitors that are bigger than your typical 1080p resolution. And we have HDMI for your regular old HDMI out to a monitor or to your TV or a projector. And this is the Ethernet port, drop down right here. And that's the power. On the back, a whole lot of nothing except for a nice cleanly designed hinge. And on the bottom, you can see this silicone soft touch finish. It looks really cool. A lot like the XPS 13. That was the first model that got the redesign among the XPS line. And I really like the way this looks compared to the last generation XPS 15Z, which kind of looked, had confusing design language and not as quality a feel to it as this guy has. So this little door pops open. Not the easiest thing to do, but you can do it. And underneath there is your service tag, information, that kind of thing. Same thing as with the XPS 13. As you notice, this is a sealed unit. The battery is sealed inside. Now that means you absolutely can't get to it? No, there are Torx T5 screws here, 2 Phillips head under here, so you can actually remove this whole plate. Be careful when you do though. It's easy actually to crack this. The plastic mount points that hold this on are really large and very tight, so they put a lot of stress on the plastic over here. But once you take that off, you can get to the battery, the hard drive, the RAM. There are 2 RAM slots in this, DDR3, 1600 megahertz. Ours came with 8 gigs of RAM, that means 4 gigs in each slot, but you can order it with up to 16 gigs or just add it yourself afterwards. You can also access the hard drive, and there's an mSATA slot for an SSD drive. We have a 32 gig SSD drive in here. And now as we take a look at the keyboard here, you can see roomy island-style chiclet keyboard. Very nice keyboard. Again, a lot like the XPS 13 in design. They've got their new font here, kind of modern looking. Good tactile feel. Not a huge amount of key travel now for a 15-inch notebook. You expect a little more key travel, but since this is a fairly thin design, I guess that's why that is. Still no complaints. Very nice to type on. No trouble typing accurately. And you can see we have our usual FN row up here for music playback, brightness, wireless, ejecting an optical disc. And kind of sculpted page up, page down. Your arrow keys right here, nice. Not enough room for a dedicated number pad over here. You usually won't see that on a 15.6-inch notebook. All in all, a good keyboard, no trampolining. This is pretty darn solid right here. Much better than the Envy keyboard, which has a lot of trampolining and not nearly as precise a feel when typing. And this keyboard is backlit, by the way. And now we've got this in the dark, so you can see what the backlit keyboard looks like. You can see the letters themselves illuminate, and there's a very soft lighting around the edges of the keys, nothing that glares and spills out at you in an annoying way. A very nice backlight. The Synaptics trackpad is very responsive. I like it. It behaves well. No weird motions, no unexpected behaviors whatsoever. Very easy to use. Definitely good trackpad on this. And now we're looking at one of the stars of the show right here. It's the display, full 1080p resolution, and very nice viewing angles. It's not an IPS panel, but you'd be hard-pressed to figure that out if you were just looking at it because the viewing angles are very wide. It's very sharp, very crisp and clear. 350 nits of brightness, so more than bright enough to combat a bright room. The only challenge is it is a glossy display, and this is Gorilla Glass, which is lovely for durability, though I'm not so sure how many of us worry about busting up our 15.6-inch notebook. It's not like you toss that in a light bag and bounce around with it too much, but Gorilla Glass does add a bit of glare to it. But overall, a lovely WLED display and one of the selling points for the machine. Now the XPS 15 starts at about $12.99, and you can keep configuring it all the way up to about $2,300 if you want a 512 gig SSD drive as your main drive in here. Ours, again, is the 1600-ish price range model. It has the quad-core i7-3612M, which is pretty much standard on most higher-end notebooks these days. You can also go up to higher-level quad-cores if you want. It has 8 gigs of RAM, as we mentioned, DDR3. You can go up to 16 if you want, and it has NVIDIA GT640M graphics with 2 gigs of DDR5 VRAM, switchable with Intel HD 4000 graphics. It has a 750 gig, 7200 RPM hard drive, and all the hard drive options are 7200 except for the 1 terabyte hard drive option. And you can get this with an mSATA SSD pre-installed that works as a caching drive to speed up Windows boot times and operations, and ours has that 32 gig. Now for those of you who like to tinker, you could always order this and then put your own SSD drive in there and just use that as a fast drive. Set up your own booting. You could put Windows on that instead if you wanted, and use the main hard drive instead as your storage area, you know, whatever you like. It has dual band Intel Wi-Fi 6235 and Bluetooth 4.0. It is Intel WiDi ready. So a pretty capable machine for the price, certainly. The Dell comes with a 1.3 megapixel webcam up here, and you can see there's the webcam and there's your dual mics, and it has 4-watt speakers. That's 2-watt stereo speakers. So we're not talking about any competition for Beats audio on the NV15 with its subwoofer and several speakers that are on board, but still, Dell gets a lot of sound out of these. This is lower wattage than the outgoing model speakers, but boy, it's pretty loud and fairly full sounding too. Very pleasant when playing games or watching videos. And given the specs and the performance of the machine, you think this would be a very capable, powerful machine and great for gaming. Now, it is quite powerful, it is quite capable, but the one thing that really constrains it is thermals. You can even hear the fan running now, and it's obviously not doing too much. CPU temperatures, let's see where they are. Right now we're just running on Intel HD 4000 graphics, and our CPUs are running around 65 centigrade, 67, as high as 70. The room is kind of warm, it's about 76 degrees in here, but otherwise this machine is not doing anything. So it does tend to run warm. The thin design means that there's not a lot of thermal dissipation going on here, unfortunately. So when Dell first came out with the new XPS 15, there were problems with it doing a lot of thermal throttling. Anytime the CPU hit 80, and obviously it's pretty easy to reach 80 degrees, it would start throttling back the CPU down to 1.2 gigahertz, not making gamers very happy. So now we're up to BIOS A09. There have been quite a few BIOSes that have passed by since this machine originally came out in late summer of this year. And what they've done is raise the thermal ceiling for the CPU, but now they've dropped it on the graphics processing unit, the GPU. What does that do? It means if you're playing games, you're not going to have a good time with it even still. With BIOS A09, we tried Crysis 2, we tried Batman Arkham City, and we would, at 1080p full resolution gaming, moderate effects turned on, we could get in the mid-30s for frame rates, which is pretty good. But after about 5 minutes of gameplay, it would suddenly drop down to about 12, which is unplayable. Now, if we paused the game, just minimized it, didn't even quit it, looked at the desktop for 2 minutes and then went back, our frame rates would go back up to mid-30s for frame rates. So there you go. This is not a machine I would recommend for gamers. I would say definitely if you're looking for something that's thin, light, and stylish, go with the HP Envy. Otherwise, there are also ASUS models and others to consider if gaming is really your thing. This is more about a very light, powerful, attractive, full 1080p machine that is more portable than most 15-inch notebooks and certainly is better looking. For our Windows Experience Index, you can see what we scored here. Processor, we got 7.3, memory 7.7, graphics 7. Gaming graphics also 7. Those are very good scores for graphics. And the primary hard disk is 5.9 because it's measuring the conventional spinning hard drive there, not the caching SSD drive. On PC Mark Vantage, it scored 10,300. Very good for a machine that has a hard drive as its main storage medium because PC Mark loves SSD drives, so often you'll see Ultrabooks that score higher just based solely on the fact that they have SSD drives. So for some of the conventional hard drive, excellent score. And it did 8,700 on 3D Mark Vantage. Very good number. So you would say, again, awesome for gaming, but like we said, not so much. Video editing, probably more of a go, especially because a lot of video editing applications actually put a lot more stress on the CPU than the GPU. But again, with the gaming, it's going to be kind of literally up and down with the frame rates. When it comes to thermals, you can probably hear the fan running right now. Again, like I said, this is a kind of warm room we're in, 76 degrees Fahrenheit in the room, and the fan is going, and the CPUs are getting close to 70, just sitting here doing pretty much nothing. If you're in a cooler room, it is quiet. I have actually used this for word processing, even playing some YouTube video, and it has not gotten this loud, but it doesn't like warm environments, I'll say that much. In terms of casing temperatures, though, it actually is very cool to the touch. Despite the fact that the CPU is running warm, you can hear the fan. This is about the warmest area right here, not even close to high. This is in the low 80s right here. Fine over here, the trackpad, not hot at all, and the bottom also stays fairly comfortable and cool. So the heat is certainly isolated and kept inside very effectively. It's not going to burn you ever. So when you have a nice 1080p screen like this, and even an optional Blu-ray player, which we have here, you probably want to watch some movies with this. That would be really one of the prime uses for this, and not too much stress for the GPU. In fact, video playback is something that Intel HD 4000 graphics can do well. And we've got a 1080p high-profile trailer here that we're going to play.
My dear Frodo.
Beautiful
You
looking.
asked me once if I had told you everything there was to know about my adventures. Well, I can honestly say I have told you.
And the speakers are actually quite nice too.
I may not have told you all of it. Bilbo Baggins.
Turn up the volume a little bit. Nice and full and clear. So definitely a nice machine for watching video.
I'm a Baggins, right? Of Baggin.
Now how about color gamut? We know this is a bright display, and right now we have it next to the HP Envy 15. Both of them are set to maximum brightness, and honestly the brightness is pretty close on them. But there's a whole red issue. Now the WLED display on the Dell is not a wide gamut color display, so those of you who are doing image editing seriously and professionally will want to use an external monitor if you get this computer. It doesn't cover the full WRGB, just about nothing does, but it doesn't cover the full sRGB. But we can see how it handles reds, because that's been a big issue with some of the 15.6-inch IPS displays like that on the Envy, which is known to have orangey reds, and also the VAIO 15.5. So you can see that we have red or reds here. It's not a huge difference though, but a little bit more orangey red on the Envy, a little bit more red on the Dell. So who's the Dell XPS 15 for? Mid-2012? I would say this is for anybody who needs to do a lot of number crunching. Certainly people who have giant Excel spreadsheets, that would be great for that. Lovely for watching videos, playing Blu-rays. Certainly works well for the executive who wants a posh-looking machine with nice metal exterior, classy-looking interior. Also great for you Photoshop jockeys, even those of you who need to produce 1080p, because like I said, the dedicated graphics throttling issue is less important there because that's often more CPU intensive when it comes to things like exporting the video. It really depends on the video editor you're using. Also, for those of you who do CAD and any kind of 3D modeling work, this would work out well too. Who is it not for? Like I said, gamers, sadly. Not for you because of the fact that it's going to throttle that GPU back or the CPU back or both. So that's the Dell XPS 15 new model, available now. Like I said, starting at $1299. This model is about $1,600 here, very well equipped with a quad-core i7 2.1 GHz Blu-ray drive. All models have the 1080p WLED display with Gorilla Glass on them, backlit keyboard. Large hard drive, 7200 RPM, so fast hard drive unless you go for that terabyte option. And you even have SSD as a possibility. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website for the full review of the new Dell XPS 15, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.